Good evening. It is Wednesday, March 20th, and welcome to the regular City Commission meeting for March 20th, 2024, and happy spring, everybody. Apparently it was yesterday. Hopefully you got out and enjoyed it, because it went away. It's over. We're going to convene the meeting, and Mr. Wiley or Mr. Lee, would you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Present. Will you all stand and join me in the flag salute? I'm going to stand very gingerly to do the flag salute. I'll be standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. So tonight, under proclamations and ceremonies, we are going to be celebrating Arbor Day, and that means that a Friends of Trees event can't be too far behind. So, Arbor Day Proclamation. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas the holiday, or event, I would say, called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. Whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can be the solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heat and cooling cost, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuels for our fire, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas whenever they are planted, they are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, do proclaim April 6, 2024 as Arbor Day in Oregon City, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day, support the efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and to plant and care for trees to promote the well-being of this and future generations. Be signed today, the 20th of March, 2024. Did planning have anything they'd like to add? So when our next... Okay, perfect. All right. So are you coming up now? Or are you... Yeah, hang on. Yeah. We do have some citizen comments. So you're after that? It'll be after that. All right. Tonight we have some citizen comments, and I'd like to welcome back Captain Lowell Gillespie. Would you like to come on up, sir? It's nice to see you again, and thank you for taking my calls. Come on up. I hope you had a lovely trip. So just give your name and city of residence for the record.
Lowell Gillespie.
And city of residence?
Oregon City.
Oregon City, the best place on earth. Would you like to stand or sit?
Oh,
You can do either. You just have to move the mic up.
so are we talking about me saying something in 3 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Like last time?
Yes.
Okay.
Anytime you're ready.
Well, last time I was going to talk about tourism on the water, and water is kind of my realm because I'm a boat captain. Right now, 32 years boat captain, running about 17 different cruise ships up and down the river, the Columbia River, Willamette River, Snake River, from Astoria to Newburgh. And I'd like to see Oregon City get into the tourism business. Because it's a good business. I mean, I've been coming up here for a long time, and there's never been any way that you could get a ride on the river from Oregon City around the falls. So I think if you could appoint one person, because it's a pretty big thing to do, and it's somebody that knows the river, is going to be, I would say, the kind of person that could probably help you the best. The Johnston dock, which is limited to the size of boats. About 2 years ago, I brought up my tour boat, Reliant, and gave a cruise for about 40 people. But we couldn't park at the Johnston dock, which is kind of unusual. We had to pick up at Sportscraft. So that's kind of, I mean, Oregon City is, I mean, you have the falls, you have so much to talk about, and tourism, I mean, people just love it. When the Oregon City locks get reopened again, that opens up a whole new upper river that's just like a Disneyland ride compared to like downriver Willamette. And I think you might be able to make some good money considering that. That's about all I have to say.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. When I worked for the Portland Development Commission, I had the pleasure of working with the owners of the Portland Spirit, Dan Yates and the late Wayne Kingsley, and we did lots of projects with them up and down the river. And I will tell you this about the locks. We are working with the Corps to get an agreement for them to transfer it to the authority. And once that happens, then there will be a program and a plan for reopening the locks after the repairs are completed.
Well, that'll be good. That'll be good. I was the one that talked Portland Spirit and Dan Yates to bring the Spirit up here.
Yes.
Nobody knew how to bring it up, so we had all of our captains on board and showed them how to navigate from Portland up to Oregon City.
Good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, worked out. Thank you.
All right, Jerry.
Hello, Commissioners. My name's Jerry Herman. I'm a resident of Gladstone, but I'm very much involved in Oregon City. You have a flyer or a handout, simple handout that says, "We are partners." And the reason I'm here tonight, and I know there's other people that feel similarly, is we want to work with your city, and we are working with your city. We are wanting to work with your effective staff. You have many capable staff, and you folks, we know, are the people that make the general parameters of what's going to happen here, set the standards for what's going to happen here. We are residents, we are individuals, some of us are professionals. We've tried to bring people in to be involved in various things that you know about, the Cove issues, some design issues with Clackamas Park and things like that in the past. We are here and we're not going to go away. We want to help things work better for you and for all of us too. We know you have aspirations about your historic and our historic place and settlement called Oregon City. They're special and they need to be developed cooperatively, and we know that's what you want as well. We believe that we can continue as volunteers and others to help you, and we want to do that in particular, make our efforts effective as we are sure that you want to be effective in what you are doing too. Now, there's one thing I wanted to mention tonight. I've done a little research on this with the help of Jacob Wiley, your recorder. Everyone's concerned about the sound. I'm getting hearing aids, by the way. I don't have them yet, but I'm going to get them because I have 40% loss in each ear. So, but in the meantime, Jacob reported to me, I've been kind of monitoring this, that your manager and he and others worked together to come up with a plan to really retrofit things here with panels, absorptive things for the sound so it doesn't bounce around as much, wireless microphones and things like that would make it ever easier for everyone to participate, because the citizens of folks that are in this room are the ones that want to do business with you. We want to do business with you, and we also want to hear what's going on. And we know that you're on a path. He told me a day ago that the contract is in effect and things are beginning to happen. So we as partners know that we'll be able to hear better, maybe in 6 to 8 months or earlier. And we thank you for that. But the most important thing is we want to help you with your projects and assist and respect you and be respected as well in all our efforts, because we are partners, all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. William Gifford. We just saw each other at the West Board meeting, so we're everywhere.
Seems like it. I usually just ramble on, but I wanted to stay within a time limit, so I wrote this down. I can just read it. My name is William Gifford, and I live in Oregon City. My wife Joyce, who many of you know, and I like to take occasional road trips, just driving off for a while. One time recently, I happened to be driving, and she had her phone plotting our route and telling us how far we had to go and so on. And the analogy came to me of pilot navigator, where the pilot, the person behind the wheel, also has to be aware of how much gas there is in the tank, how the air in the tires, watch out for potholes, keep the windshields clean, and so on. Whereas the navigator plans the route, is alerted to traffic ahead or emergencies, and basically keeps things on track to make sure that we reach our goal. It occurred to me that this is very similar to the relationship between the city commission and the city manager, where the city commission is the navigator. They plot the direction, they know where the city should be going, they have had a route to get there, and they make sure things stay on track. Whereas the pilot has to keep track of the budget, personnel hiring, and so on, making sure that the right people are assigned to the right job, and that the machine, that is the city, is in good working order. I told this analogy to a friend of mine, and he asked me to share it with the commission. But this friend also came up with another aspect of my analogy, and that is the importance of communication between the pilot and the navigator. If the navigator can't communicate the correct directions to the pilot, then the pilot really isn't at fault if it goes awry. Vice versa, if the pilot doesn't understand what the directions are and can't communicate the limitations of the resources that are available to the navigator, well, we might not be getting where we're hoping to get. It's not a perfect analogy, nothing is, otherwise it wouldn't be an analogy, it would be equality. I just wanted to share that idea with you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much. Paul Edgar.
Thank you all. Paul Edgar, Oregon City, Kanema. First I want to thank you, the mayor and the team, for helping in the cause to prevent tolling from happening. At least we got a ricochet right now with what the governor did. It's not over, but I believe that having all of the team talking out with one voice was very important, and getting more people working hard to explain how terrible tolling would be was critical in putting the conditions together where the governor made her decision. Now I sit on a county community action board for Clackamas County. And one of the issues at Health, Housing, and Human Services is how do we slow up the pipeline of people going onto the street or into subsistence or requiring a lot of government support. And we have more people flowing that way now than we've normally had. One of the things we need to really start envisioning is how we can start creating housing that are individual houses, that are affordable, that people can buy. And the governor came back and just said, okay, in this new legislation, there are going to be $10,000 gifts just about made to people, first-time homeowners, to be able to buy a house. But we don't have inventory. We don't have places. And what I've been talking up, and I'm hoping I could get a bunch of you people to start thinking about, is taking the Walmart site right on Molalla Avenue Beaver Creek. There's about 100 acres when you get undeveloped back to Metro Park property back there that could be redeveloped. And this is a site that could create a walkable housing community where we could get it master plan, we can get EPA cleanup money to clean up the old wrecking yard property, contaminants. But that site has all of the water, sewer, transportation, and everything in one place. And we could create houses together that people could have and buy. They did a development over in Redmond, and everybody laughed about it. These were one-bedroom houses, and they sold in 24 hours all of the units. But we have a place. And we need to think about these things because we cannot continue to build shelters in many of these other places around to house people, and it just makes more sense. So that's my appeal to you right now, is for us to think together, become a team together, take advantage of the opportunity of emergency monies that are available, and let's try to make something happen in Oregon City that solves housing problems.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, under communications, could you briefly inform us about whether or not Oregon City got any funding from the county? We asked for some for talking about things just like this particular type of program. Thank you. Elma.
Good evening, Mayor McGriff and Commissioners. My name is Thelma Hagen Miller. I reside in the unincorporated area of Clackamas County, known as Oak Grove. I am here tonight as a volunteer representative of the Oregon City Heritage Coordinating Committee, OCHCC. I have previously informed you that OCHCC is working towards an Oregon City familiarization tour. The title of the FAM tour will be the same as the theme of the mini float OCHCC is putting in this year's Rose Festival Parade, Oregon City Dreams, Past, Present, and Future. You will hear more about that later this evening. Tonight, I want you to know that we have set the date for the FAM tour. It is Friday, May 17th, 2024. The target audience for the tour are the front desk people at the regional visitor centers, hotels, and tour operators. I was at the Governor's Tourism Conference in Salem, Oregon last week, where I made many good connections with these people. OCHCC is in the process of finalizing the itinerary for the tour. There are places during the tour where each of you can join us and talk about your Oregon City dreams. I will return to your commission meeting on April 3rd, 2024 with a finalized itinerary and an ask for funding for the FAM tour. Please mark down the tour date on your calendar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that's all the slips that I have for citizen comments. You don't have any more? Okay, all right. Let's move on to agenda item 5A, which is a presentation on Tree City USA at the Friends of Trees program. That would be Mr. Peter Walter.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Pete Walter, Planning Manager in the Community Development Department. And I'm here tonight to talk briefly about the three programs related to the city's tree efforts, Tree City USA, Arbor Day upcoming celebration, and our Friends of Trees partnership. And I have 10 slides. First, I'm going to talk about Tree City USA. So founded in 1976, Tree City USA is a partnership between the Arbor Day Foundation, the Forest Service, the National Association of State Foresters, and it is administered through the Oregon Department of Forestry, Community and Urban Forestry Division. And Oregon City is part of a network of more than 3,600 Tree City USA communities nationwide. Every year since 2013, Oregon City has received recognition as a Tree City USA based on the work that we do to manage, maintain, and enhance our community's public trees. This is our 11th year of recognition as a Tree City USA. There are 4 standards to qualify as a Tree City USA. You must first have a tree board or department. In this case, that is our Natural Resources Committee. You must have an adopted public tree ordinance, which is Oregon City Municipal Code, Chapter 12.08, Public and Street Trees. You must spend at least $2 per capita on tree care, and I will go into that further in a coming up a slide. And you must observe and celebrate Arbor Day. In 2023, we reported the following statistics to the Arbor Day Foundation. We planted 296 trees, we pruned 964 trees, and there were 282 tree removals. The estimated value of the volunteer time came to $9,500, and the total amount spent on tree planting, care, removal, and replacement totaled $480,281, with a per capita expenditure of $12.82. So these numbers represent a composite of the tree expenses reported from the Planning, Public Works, and Parks Department. They include staff time spent on actual tree care, permit review, our Friends of Trees contract for the year 2023, fees in lieu of planting, and the value of volunteer time. Tree City USA maintains a list of eligible expenses for this calculation, and I would point out that this is probably an underestimate. 2023 also saw us win our 4th Growth Award. This additional award is given for categories, in this case 4 categories. The first being planting trees, and the Friends of Trees program that we have qualified again as one of those. Policies and ordinances were represented through the work that the city did and adopted new street tree code amendments. And those code amendments prioritized replanting over paying fee in lieu, while easing up on the mandate to replant in narrow and undersized planting areas to assure that the right tree is planted in the right place. As far as awareness and festivals category, on April 5th, 2023, we held a dedication ceremony to honor our newly planted Hiroshima Peace Tree, and that event was held at the end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center and marked the 75th anniversary of the close of World War II. The young tree was grown from seeds of trees that miraculously survived the atomic bombing of Hiroshima in August 6, 1945. And finally, the education component category, consisting of a community tree care workshop, pruning workshop held at Chapin Park on January 28th, 2023, with approximately 37 volunteers attending to learn proper pruning techniques, and that was put on by Friends of Trees. I'm going to talk about Friends of Trees now. Friends of Trees has successfully coordinated consecutive tree plantings every year in Oregon City since 2015, planting more than 800 trees and engaging many hundreds of volunteers. Friends of Trees is uniquely qualified to conduct resident outreach, volunteer coordination, education, and ongoing tree care. They run safe, fun, and effective programs, and they provide the opportunity for volunteers and residents to meet their neighbors on planting day and learn about proper tree care and planting. Between 2015 and 2022, there have been over 600 volunteers, approximately $60,000 worth of value in volunteer time, a greater than 95% survival rate of planted trees for the first 2 years. And they provide a service for advertising through multiple formats, their program. They have planted in virtually all of our neighborhoods, and they've also conducted plantings at various schools. In the wake of the 2021 ice storm, they helped plant 200 trees to recover from that program. And those trees include both street trees and trees planted in people's front yards. '23 saw a big jump in tree plantings in one event. In December 2023, over 90 trees were planted. There is separate sponsorship of the program through public and private partners, including Cayuse Construction and the Oregon City High School National Honor Society. These plantings are open to residents in McLaughlin, Park Place, Elyville, Kanema, Two Rivers, South End, and Holcomb neighborhoods, Park Place. And there was also a 2024 tree pruning workshop at Tyrone S. Woods Park, followed by pruning events in both the neighborhoods around Tyrone S. Wood Park and up in the Park Place neighborhood. This year, April 6th, Arbor Day, will be held at Chapin Park. 9 o'clock is a joint event coordinated with Oregon City Parks, Friends of Trees, and the Planning Department. Sponsors again include Oregon City and Cayuse. The event will be the staging area for the South Neighborhoods planting with Friends of Trees. Residents can still sign up for a high-quality tree through the Friends of Trees webpage shown here. And further details about the Arbor Day ceremony will be posted at the website address shown here. We're still working on the order of speakers and that sort of thing. The Friends of Trees portion of the event starts at 8:45 and will conclude at 1 p.m. So thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there any questions for Pete?
Thank you.
I just noted on the slideshow that if you take 296 trees planted and 282 trees removed, we have a net number of 14. So what can we do to get that 282 number down to less than 100 or even less than 50?
Yeah, understood. I think it's an inevitable part of tree management, but we are working actively with Friends of Trees to try to increase the level of outreach and planting each year. Our current contract that's on the agenda tonight anticipates at least 100 trees per year. There are some capacity issues associated with Friends of Trees' ability to recruit homeowners into the program. However, we will continue to try to increase those numbers if we can. Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to ask is that since you're also the staff for the NRC, I know one of the things they had on their work program was to create some new standards for the trees. And have they started working on that?
Yeah, the NRC is discussing some recommendations for tree code that they want to bring forward to the city commission at an upcoming meeting.
Awesome.
They have not acted to move that recommendation forward yet. They're making some edits to it, to a letter that they'd like to present to you, and I will be discussing that with them at their next meeting in April. So second Wednesday of April will be when the NRC discusses that on their agenda.
Perfect. So if you think it's something that's worthy of us having a little work session with them, let us know. I'm following that fairly closely just because it's a great project.
Okay.
All right, so I've got April the 6th on my calendar.
Thank you.
Be there or be square, right?
Yep.
Right?
Thank you.
No, this was, that's something different. That's Xerxes Society. Yeah, that's something they have talked to us about, and I think it was on their work plan. So Commissioner Morrow was asking about the B city designation.
Yeah, the B City USA program has been discussed by the NRC. It is something that they would support if other committees also support that. There's been some discussion with PRAC as well. At this point, the NRC, cannot make recommendations with respect to other departments who control city-managed lands, but they are actively willing to support an application to B City USA.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to having it come forward from hopefully a joint recommendation from NRC and PRAC, and I know the Oregon City Parks Foundation is very supportive of that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, next on our agenda, we have Library Board Annual Update, and it's always a pleasure to welcome our amazing Library Director, Mr. Williams, and Board Chair, David Goldberg. So thank you so much. I think second only to the elevator, the library is the second most popular place to go in Oregon City.
We'll get it first. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners, Tony, Alex. I'm David Goldberg. I live in unincorporated Clackamas County, but within the Library District, and I've been the chair of the Oregon City Library Board this is my third term. We're just delighted to be here to sort of bring you up to date on the activities of the previous year. Happy to report this has been a fabulous year of growth, and we're almost back to pre-pandemic levels, which is amazing since none of the other Link libraries are there yet either. Interestingly, when we look at the utilization of the library, while the overall collection activity is down about 9%, our ebook activity is up 62%. So people did shift how they used the library during the pandemic, and some have just continued to do that. In the past year, the Library Board, in conjunction with the staff, has completed two major policy revisions: the Library Collections Development Policy and the library's Behavior Policy. At a time when libraries and intellectual freedom are under unprecedented and concerted attack around the country, the library's board has put in quite a bit of work on a collection development policy that has strengthened the library's ability to continue to provide free access to a wide range of information and materials to our entire diverse community. Our work on the library behavior policy not only helps ensure that the library continues to be a comfortable and welcoming environment to all visitors, but provides library staff with the tools and support they need to better address behavior issues and to keep staff and patrons safe. Library Board has also worked closely with staff and the neighborhood associations to revise the library's meeting room policy and to develop procedures by which neighborhood associations and CPOs within the library service area can utilize the community room after hours in a manner that ensures safety and security of the building without requiring limited library staff to be present and to support their activities. Finally, we've been working with staff to draft and approve bylaws to establish the library's Teen Advisory Committee and the Young Teen Advisory Committees. These are now recognized established committees of the board, and I can't tell you how excited we are as to how much interest and work and activity these young people have provided over the previous year. We're constantly astonished. In terms of strategic planning, the Library Board has championed the creation and dissemination of the first ever statistically valid dedicated library survey of residents in the unincorporated area, which represents about 40% of our library's population, the district's population. We were pleased to see that the overall ratings were very positive, similar to the city's survey, but we also identified some areas of unmet need, and we're trying to address them right now. This has really helped inform the creation of a 2-year tactical plan, copies of which you have, that really provides the board assurance that the staff is operationalizing the strategic plan that we approved, and we're very pleased with how that is going. We've already had some pretty amazing, really, activities related to the tactical plan. One of which is to get as many library cards to as many people in our district as we possibly can. And you have recently approved, as has Clackamas County and has the Oregon City School Board, an agreement now that really will enable every student in the Oregon City Public School District to be able to use their student ID as an effective library card. And this will has been approved now and will go into effect in the coming year. The tactical plan has also identified the need to expand the library's books by mail program, again, to better meet the needs of people that are outside of the city. And we're looking at lockers and looking at a variety of other ways in order to enable use of the library, even when it's closed, to be able to get reserves out and to be able to return books all throughout our district. So that's being studied and will be operationalized in the coming years. We're looking to continue to expand our relationship with Clackamas Community College, again, trying to make sure that all the library resources in our district, from the public schools to our public library to the public community college, can be best utilized so that we can eliminate and reduce duplication and make sure that we're providing the best library services we can. We also are looking at where the city is growing, and so we've asked staff to reach out to the leasing agents, for example, of the project at Maple Lane and Beaver Creek in order to get library card applications to folks as they're looking at their new residence here in Oregon City. So we're pretty excited about that. I can't tell you how pleased I am with the level of engagement that individual board members on the library board have. We probably have an average of more than 30 meetings in addition to the 9 required annual meetings that the board has. Each board member really is taken on additional responsibilities as liaison to the Friends of the Library that operate the wonderful bookstore up on Malala, to the Oregon City Library Foundation, which is raising money and now is looking at helping us with these lockers and going into the future, with LDAC, the Library District Advisory Committee that has been really almost defunct because of COVID and now is coming back to life, and hopefully we'll be looking at the future, which needs to be done, and a liaison with the Teen Advisory Committee and the Teen and the Young Teen Advisory Committee. We also are fortunate to have a board member who's also a board member of the Oregon City Public Schools, so that relationship has gotten stronger and stronger as we move forward. Growth and progress. All linked libraries are still recovering from the COVID pandemic. As I said before, we've noticed that our library had a total circulation decrease still of about 9% from pre-pandemic levels, but the ebook circulation is up by 66%. Just to give you a notion of the scale of what we're seeing at the library, over the past calendar year, we've seen about 155,000 patron visits to the library. The library is open 353 days a year with an average of 440 visitors per day and running about 35 different programs for various groups of patrons throughout each month. So what are our concerns? Well, the library district itself was created by voters in 2008, providing 39 cents per thousand valuation as monies that could be used to operate and run libraries. While property values have increased and tax collections have not kept up with the increased demand for library service, increased population, and increased diversity of library materials and electronic resources, as well as just overall inflation. A new library district really is needed with an increased rate, but with 13 linked libraries, it will likely take a minimum of 5 years to craft, to plan, and to actually go out to the public if in fact that is something that we could get consensus around. It really is like herding cats in many ways with just that many different entities and cities that we have to get approval from. So this will be a slower process than it might be with a single entity like a community college or the schools. So we're concerned. The Oregon City voters passed the facility bond in 2014, which is scheduled to be repaid in full by 2034 at about $450,000 a year, which is what we were paying to pay off the bond. Presently, city finance requirements require us to keep a pretty sizable fund balance, and that's prudent fiscal management, and we don't really disagree with it, but there is a bolus of money there that is sitting in reserve. There's a gap between when a new bond measure might be able to be passed in order to get a new district formed and the repayment of that $415,000 a year. And so between fiscal year 3031 and the year that the bond will be paid off, 2030 and 31 to 2034, there's going to be about 4 years where we're going to have a shortfall of about $400,000, $415,000 a year. Now, we really, that will require some forethought, and that's why I wanted to raise it now so that we have some time to be thinking about how we can meet that need, either by relaxing the reserve requirement, because in a disaster, I'm not sure where the library would have to keep that stronger reserve, but that's something that we need to talk about. Increase general funding, or in the unlikely event that none of this is met, we're going to have to look at reducing services at the library, which none of us want to do. In the meantime, this was really an optimistic year. I look forward to an optimistic year coming forward. The patrons are flocking to the library and are participating in programs in really unprecedented numbers right now. And hopefully this will continue as our community grows. Thank you for your time and attention this evening and your support of the library. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Questions? Comment? Question for you about the technical plan on 4.1. I'm assuming you're talking about the kind of a box that you see at Rite Aid. You can get your Amazon package somewhere else. Okay.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
It's similar to an Amazon locker. There are several vendors who provide them. You basically scan your library card. Staff have pre-delivered your holds there. You can also return the holds there. Lots of libraries using them. It's a great low capital cost way to get out farther from your library. The rub is always staffing, figuring out how to get staffing to get materials out there so people aren't waiting a huge amount of time.
So these are not at our library. You're talking about a remote location.
Correct, yes.
Someplace
And
else.
so
Okay.
for us, that's a key strategy for us to look at how do we get services out to our 100 square mile service area without necessarily incurring capital cost to construct a new facility, which we don't see a really real great funding mechanism for in the future.
And I think one time we were throwing around the idea of and I'm going to use the old-fashioned term, a bookmobile or a book van. I don't know. I'm going to call it a bookmobile. It's always been a bookmobile. So is that still being discussed? I mean, I'm not saying
That is
it's
still
probably
being
implemented,
discussed
but
for both those projects. We have some money budgeted this biennium. We are working with our library foundation and our library friends to help augment that funding. The library, they have their process that they want to go through to make sure that they're comfortable going forward. So we're working very closely with them to see how we can go forward and jointly fund this. So that is in our future. We want a library outreach vehicle very, very badly as well.
It's okay if we call it a bookmobile. What it is.
But Bookmobile has staffing, again, staffing.
Yes, it's always about staffing.
It's always about staffing, yeah.
So as mentioned by your chair, the regional nature of library services does not go unnoticed, and the challenges associated with that, and who shall provide those services, and who shall pay for those services, and the allocation of costs. So it's not something that Oregon City is going to bear single-handedly. It's distributed among those participants, and trying to herd those cats, you're welcome for that challenge.
Yeah, indeed, and when I came to this position, I really looked at the finances and discovered, to my surprise, that even though library services are a county-wide service, one would think that everybody would get equal funding, but that's not the way this works. The money that's collected in Lake Oswego goes to Lake Oswego. The money that's collected in Oregon City and our portion goes, and so there's a real disparity. And one of the things that would be helpful going forward would be to change at least any new monies so that they got distributed more equitably across the county, because a county resident is a county resident. But yeah, indeed, dealing with the cats on that issue will be interesting.
Some of that's like market share of who services what areas and growth and defending areas. And so that's for you folks to manage, and I appreciate your efforts.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, thank you.
Next, we have a review of and adoption of the consent agenda. Is there anything on here that people would like to take off?
Mayor McGriff?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Well, I just had a quick question because
Library?
No.
Okay.
On the deed dedications, for the options, it said authorize the mayor to execute the agreement, and I just want to clarify.
Yeah, Jacob can explain that.
On the deed agreements?
Yes, the ones that the county's requiring that my signature be on those.
Yeah, some of one of them or more of them have the city manager as the signatory, and then one of them has the mayor as the signatory, so the mayor would sign one of them.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay. Mike?
I'd like to add one item to our agenda tonight, and I think this is the right way to do it. I would like to add an item for us to discuss and hopefully direct Mr. Conkle to put on our next regular meeting agenda, which would be April 3rd, a discussion and take public comment and hopefully come to a vote and conclusion on the location of the RV park. I think it's time for us to make a decision and move on.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
That was a motion.
I'll second it. All those in favor of adding an item 9C of general business on the city commission agenda to regarding the RV park, signify by your vote when Jacob calls the roll. That was a good catch, right? I was going to say signify by saying I just led a meeting this afternoon. So Jacob, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
No.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
I'm going to preface this and say no because of the many questions that came up at the work session, so my vote is no.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so it'll go on 9C. All right, so as I was saying, on the consent agenda, you got a question. I don't want to pull it, but I have questions about items 7A, B, and C. As you know, I would. I would like to make another friendly suggestion on these staff reports. If the premises has previously had a license, it would be great to say it had previously received one as blah, blah, blah. So for instance, the first one, I believe, is the former 12 Bridges cider location. That would be helpful to know. I mean, I know it's a new application for that location, but there's already been one there. And it would be nice to know if there have been previous limited on-premise permits at these locations. So I'm looking them up because I thought, oh, this one on Clackamas River Drive looks really familiar. Yes, well, that's the Stein Oil location. And for those of you that don't know, the Stein Oil Company they're ceasing operation and they've sold their assets. And then 9C is the one, the Claremont Station, as those of us old timers know what Claremont area is. That's at Beaver Creek and Molalla Avenue. So there's a package store there, and there's one at the Stein Oil headquarters on Clackamas River Drive. So that would be helpful to put that on there. So if there was one before, if it's a brand new location and it's never been there before, it's a different sort of scenario. So that would be very helpful. So is that something that would be possible?
Absolutely.
Okay. Then I would like a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Or second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Roll call, Mr. Lee.
Commissioner Adam Morrill,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I can't wait to see the new Ford Transit whenever that comes in. I've never heard of that type of vehicle before. All right, so we don't have any public hearings tonight. Next on our agenda would be item number 9. So we have the first reading of ordinance number 241003, proposed amendments to Oregon City Municipal Code, Chapter 2.40, Public Contracting Purchasing, subsections 240.020 and 240.030. Is that Mr. Conkle or Ms. Raines, or is that Mr. Graham?
That'll be me.
All right. Ooh, first report.
Yes. All right. Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, you do have recommended amendments before you this evening to your public contracting and purchasing code. Overall, this is coming before you because the code is 20 years old, hasn't been updated in a long time, does contain a lot of outdated information. So you'll see specifically in 020 that we've added clarifying language for ease of use by staff. There's a reference to an ORS that has been removed as it has been repealed and replaced. We've added language to reference updated Oregon administrative rules and or specifically pertaining to architectural and engineering services. And we've also updated the procurement thresholds for architectural and engineering services, as the code previously used those thresholds and framework to procure personal services. So I've simply stuck with that framework and updated it to today's standards. You'll see also that the city manager's signing authority is still 50,000, so this is not changing the amount of contracts that you're seeing come before you. It just might be that they went through a different procurement method. For 030, it's just a very minor update, removing gender-specific language for the city manager position. And I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Are there any questions?
If you'd like to see less contracts, I'd be happy to raise my signing authority, but I'll leave that up to you.
Well, it depends on whether goods and services have gone up substantially, because we all know they have. But
so there has been, I know that the state actually did raise rates, I think it was via SB 1047. Goods and services did go up, so thresholds for goods and services for direct appointment went up to 25,000. From 25 to 250, it's an intermediate process, and then 250 plus, you're looking at a more formal process. So you have seen the state raise some limits in recognition that, you know, some of these thresholds just simply aren't covering what they used to, and you're going to see that from time to time.
Question? Go ahead, Mike.
So, 2.40.0.30 and A2 and A3 refers to that the city manager execute, his authority to execute contracts up to $50,000. But you go up to 24020A1.
He's doing a mic check. Making sure the mic works.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry. On A1, it says for any professional service, so forth, the city manager or designee may make an award by direct appointment.
So that would
to
still
$100,000.
require approval by the commission. So you have different contract thresholds that are going to state things that the city can, for instance, like we could go get quotes for goods and services up to 250,000 and select that person or that vendor, but it would still have to come to you for approval.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that says award, may make an award by direct appointment, up to $100,000. That to me conflicts with the $50,000 limit that we've talked about.
So I guess.
It doesn't say, it doesn't say.
Sure.
The process, it says award.
Right.
I understand that there's like 3 different levels of process.
Right. So that is the language for architectural and engineering services. We can change it in this. That's just how they generally speak about this $100,000 where you can make a direct appointment up to $100,000. We can change the language.
The city manager can.
So technically, yes, but it would still have to be approved by the commission. It's not changing his authority.
But that's not what that says.
You're wanting it to be more direct?
And maybe we need Mr. Kabizman's opinion, but you see,
He has reviewed this,
that
but-
phrase there says that under $100,000, the city manager can award.
Right, and the way that, I see what you're saying, that, you know, essentially you're saying regardless of what it says later, city manager has authority here to award. I think if you read them together, it says you gotta go to you before the city manager awards, but I do think your point is a good one that can be clarified, that the city manager may select using the direct appointment, and that doesn't get to the award. The award would still come through the city commission.
Right.
Okay.
So we could make a language change to do that.
I think that would be helpful, so we don't have confusion. And the other thing that, and it's kind of the same point, under B, city manager may delegate the authority to advertise bids or proposals, so forth, that do not exceed $25,000. But then there are other places up above that refer to city manager or his designee at those 100,000 and 250. So again, I think there's some confusion over what maximum value of could be awarded by a designee of the city manager.
But that would be somebody acting with the authority as the manager. That's the designee.
I support Commissioner Mitchell's. Because if you look up the definition of award, which I just did, an award is to give or order the giving of something as an official payment or compensation. So that's an award. It's yours.
And like,
So I think cleaning that up is worthwhile.
A1 says city manager or designee.
What page are you on
may make
again?
an award under 100,000. I just want to make sure that it's clear what the value of contracts is that can be awarded by the city manager without commission approval, and also the value of contracts that are agreements that his designee can award without commission approval.
Yeah, and so whether it's manager or commissioner, anything over $50,000 goes to you as it currently stands and as it should after this, right? And so, you know, the way I'd read them together is saying that the manager can award it, but he doesn't have authority. Anyway, yeah, let's bring it back with some changes to the language that makes it that the city manager may select a contractor.
And that's for everybody's protection. We don't want to get Mr. Conkle in a situation where he thought he had having the authority to do something, and turns out didn't. Or, you know, some contractor challenges the way the process went because we didn't follow what we had in our rules. So I just want to make sure we're clear.
So you had identified one.
Yeah, I was unclear as to the other area.
Yeah, the other one, is it focused on the language city manager or designee, the rest of your comments? So it's when can the city manager do it and when can his designee do it?
Right. Thank you.
So I think my question is going to be, maybe 2 people will be able to answer this. So I know that Mr. Graham is working on some procurement language, and I want to know how this relates to that. Are we getting that in there with regard to what I would like to call the buy local first, the MWSB requirements that we'd like to put in place so that we hire more local and also minority contractors? How's that working? How's this going to?
When that's prepared, we'll bring it. So
And
these
that
are
will
two
dovetail
separate.
with this?
This is updating the municipal code to be consistent with the Oregon Revised Statutes. the way they're
Okay,
written.
I just want to make sure that's still on track and that's going to be coming soon.
Yes, no, there were still discussions about that moving forward. This was separate from that.
Okay, but it's related.
Correct.
So, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So when it talks about the current contracting limits for engineering and architectural services, are we also, because there was a bill that was just passed in the legislature that takes away our authority to include duty to defend clauses in these procurement contracts. And so I'm wondering if that's what's being referred to in the staff report is in anticipation of the signing of that bill.
No, it was not.
Okay.
And what I simply did was I looked at the code as it was written 20 years ago and saw that for personal services, that the commission at that time had elected to use the thresholds for architectural engineering and those specific rules to procure personal services. The state does allow a fair amount of deference to cities in terms of how they procure personal services. And so what I've oftentimes seen is that a commission will then take rules for another type of contracting that are more defined and simply use them for personal services. So you're not talking about a situation where you're going to probably be procuring a lot, well, maybe there's a possibility of some, but not everything you're going to be procuring with these specific rules would necessarily be for architectural engineering services. You're just using those thresholds.
Any other questions? You're going to bring this back with those minor changes? So they were major enough that we can't just substitute a word there and because we already advertised it a certain way.
Yeah, given the changes in designees that we need to track down all of them and make sure they're all consistent, it probably makes sense to bring it back than to read it.
Okay, all right, so we're not going to be doing a first reading. All right, so next on 9B, and Mr. City Manager, if you could remind me, there's something I forgot to ask our fabulous library director under their report, so I'll bring that back under number 10. If you remind me, because it's about teen committees. So we have a 9B, a request for funding request from the Oregon City Heritage Coordinating Committee for a Grand Floral Parade mini float. I didn't call anybody up yet. We haven't gotten the staff report. So hang on, Don. Yes. Tony?
Thank you, evening Mayor and Commissioners. So tonight you have a request from the Oregon City Heritage Coordinating Committee for funding for the design and construction of a mini float that will be in the Grand Floral Parade. As outlined in the staff report, the request is for $10,750, which includes $10,000 for the float design and construction, $500 for transportation to and from the event and during the parade itself, and a banner, approximately $250. OCHCC will be utilizing Clackamas Heritage Partners as their 501c3, which is required for the event, and they'll be representing them. And then, as it relates to where this funding, if the commission decides to fund the entirety or portion of it, staff is recommending that we use transient lodging taxes, and I've included in your staff report from the Oregon Revised Statutes, the definition of tourism promotion, which is something that transient lodging taxes can be used for. And tourism promotion includes advertising, publicizing, or distributing information for the purpose of attracting and welcoming tourists. And the other one that's potentially applicable, marketing special events and festivals designed to attract tourism. Now, if the commission determines that the transient lodging tax is not an appropriate funding source, the only other one that we've identified would be to use general fund for the request. Included in your packet was the by by the Oregon City Heritage Coordinating Committee, including the request itself and the schematic drawing of the proposed mini float. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Were the funds that were doled out last year, did those come from transient lodging tax as well?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Comments?
Yes, please.
I need to preface this by saying I appreciate what these folks do. What Thelma Hagen Miller, Don Scott, I appreciate all their efforts. I'm actually looking forward to this thing that she proposed earlier, because it's in keeping with my thoughts that every front-facing occupation should be a tourism ambassador. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that entails. Now, what I'm about to say about this is going to get some real mixed reviews, and some of them are going to love it, and some of them are going to hate it. But I look at anything that we do as a return on the investment, a verifiable, measurable return on the expenditure or return on the investment. And I find it impossible to demonstrate an effect of this float in a Portland parade in terms of generating business. It certainly can't be measured. I mean, if we skipped a year, we couldn't even measure that, because we wouldn't know if we had an increase of that year or a decrease. Who would know why it really happened? I look at the $10,750 and I think, what else could I do with that would be more effective in generating tourism? And I mean, at $15 an hour, I could hire 716 hours of work, which at 10 hours a day is 71 days of people that could be holding open a museum or something. And then I look at how could I spend this elsewhere to get a maximum return on events? And I think in terms of advertising immediately before a major event, like immediately before the first city event, because then you engage the general public through the media, whether it be TV or radio or our connections with media personnel. And we establish those local connections, and it's fresher in people's mind. I don't know if anybody watches news where they say, and this weekend we suggest these as events to attend. So in terms of competing projects for the money, I just don't see the return on this investment. And I know that'll probably be met with some harsh reviews of what I said, but that's honestly how I feel, and I'm saying it.
Do you want to say anything before he comes up?
I don't know. Yeah, I would like to say, well, the first thing I was going to say on this topic is that I've been a part of this organization for a long time, and I probably won't vote because I don't feel it might be appropriate. I've not been in part of the dialogue to bringing this year's proposal forward. But I do participate in this every year, and so if I need to abstain, I definitely will. But to answer your...
Are they paying you to do the float?
They are not paying me to do the float.
I don't think you have a problem.
Just in the 1 second that I spent looking online, it says, the Grand Floral Parade is the second largest all-floral parade in the country, drawing an audience of 500,000 people, not to mention the 20 million viewers by national television broadcasts. So it does have a bigger draw than what most people would think is just a regular parade. It is a very huge media event, and that's, I don't know if that gives you the number, but you mentioned other media and commercials. This is a giant commercial that goes nationwide.
Well, I'm going to hold off on my comments. Come on up, Don. Thank you for being here.
My name is Don Scott. I live in unincorporated Clackamas County, but I have an Oregon City address. And I just want to say I'm not offended by your comments. I struggle with how do you measure the value of advertising? It's a difficult thing to do. I will say that this year, the theme for the Rose Festival is Dream Forward. And our group took that on, Oregon City Dreams, past, present, and future. And to your point, we don't view this as a single event in total isolation. We also use it to promote something that our groups worked hard to do after a lot of criticism in the past, collaborating on things. This 2 weeks after this event we'll be advertising Oregon City Heritage Days under a Oregon City Dreams theme. And the way that works, we've found a pretty workable model where we collectively have an overall theme on either a particular day or for a season, but each individual location is free to develop their own event. So we're getting the collaboration like we haven't seen before. We did this last year with was Weddings Through the Centuries was the theme last year, and all of the participants had their own activity. We did the Heritage Holidays. We've done that 2 years now. The same model. Each house or museum creates their own event. But we're getting more of a heritage community view than just lots of little individuals doing things. So the float we're going to use with Dr. John McLaughlin representing kind of the beginning of the dream that became the Oregon City we know. And during the parade, the way it works, which you may not be aware of, is there's a number of probably 10 stops along the way in front of the TV cameras where a script is read, and we will be using that to promote not just Oregon City, but the Heritage Days events. And our focus is on heritage because that's our niche. We certainly are aware, as Thelma's Fam Tour addresses, we're only a part of the tourism attraction, but we work with what we can control. So that's what I have to say. It's a challenging event for us older walkers, but we're able to generate the volunteers, and I've been encouraged by the participation by more and more of the heritage assets. Downtown is now participating because we certainly view them as a heritage asset. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, a couple of my questions are, do you want to go first?
No,
Okay, a couple of my questions are, so when this came before us last year, I asked the question about how much money is the organization putting in, including volunteer hours, because this seems kind of like asking for a handout. And I know that while you know where my heart is in terms of heritage, I'm up here representing the entire community. So I have to put my
I understand.
personal biases about heritage aside and look at this from a global picture. And I think the questions you asked, Commissioner O'Donnell, are totally valid. And, you know, what's to stop somebody else from coming in? Well, you gave them $10,000, so why don't you give us $10,000 or $5,000 or $4 for whatever it is? And so I didn't see that in your documentation about what was being put in. And obviously volunteer hours have some value, according to the IRS, and I agree with that. The other thing is that while the Rose Festival's theme is past, present, and future dreams, I was asked last year what I thought off the record about a possible idea of using one of our tragic, and I say tragic, historic figures because I talk about him all the time, the first territorial governor, Joseph Lane. Well, when I give tours, I do talk about his racist past because I think people need to know that. He was not an angel. He had some problems. And so what I'm concerned about with the design, Don, and this is, I didn't see it until it came in a report, is that it reflects Oregon City's past. It only reflects Oregon City's settlers' past. We have a diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. That is our goal number 1 on our 7 goals. I don't see how this float design reflects Oregon City's present and where we're going to the future. It only talks about our past, which is basically white settlers. And that is not what we are anymore. It is part of our past. And so as a person of color, and I'm out there, and that's representing Oregon City, and we have a broader diversity mix in the Portland metropolitan area, what message is that sending about who we are and what we are? We're only focusing on that one thing. So I think that we need to be thinking about where Oregon City is moving towards and where we are now in terms of our diversity, equity, and inclusion. And anything we're putting out there that represents us have got to represent that as well.
I don't disagree.
I know. I'm sure people don't. They're saying, yeah, we need to do that.
So to the first point, we are not a 501c3. We're just a committee trying to coordinate activities in the city. So we have nothing but volunteer time to put in. Now, if the commission wants all of the individual houses to put in, that's a different issue. But that's why this year there isn't. We have invested the time to do this. I haven't tallied up all the hours, but it's a significant number of volunteer hours.
I know.
And we have 10 days left. We can change the design. That's just what we came up with. I'm open to any suggestion about changing the design so we can capture a future element.
Yeah, I have been affiliated, as Rocky has, with the organization, and I'm aware of it. I receive all your emails, so I can keep up with what's going on with regard to where I volunteer at. And I appreciate the work that Mr. Harding put into this, but I know that at least 3 of the organizations, we've been doing Heritage Holidays for over 20 years now, before OCCH came into being. We've also done...
It was always in...
Yeah.
It was always...
Yeah.
This organization is the same group that's was doing it 20 years ago.
Yeah, so we've always been doing Heritage Holidays. The Rose Festival thing is more new. We were open during June, and everybody participated in that. So that has been, appreciated. So I guess, what Commissioner O'Donnell's asking about is, how do we capture our return on investment, even if it's very broadly focused?
Well, I think, can you measure it in dollar and cents? No. But you can, and I did the same thing Commissioner Smith did. I looked online, and what I saw was an audience at the Grand Floral Parade of 250,000 people and live television, as Mr. Scott mentioned. And I don't think at a cost of $10,750, I mean, that cost per impression is pretty darn low. I don't think there's any other advertising that we could do and reach that many people for $10,000. So in my mind, it is a good investment. Can you directly, is it going to directly ring the cash register? No, probably not. But is it going to put Oregon City as a tourism destination in the mind of, some percentage of that 250,000 plus TV audience? Yeah, I think it will. So personally, I think it's a good investment.
The float, I should point out, the float does have a 2-foot by 2-foot sign on 3 sides that is the Oregon City Tourism logo. So it is branding the city as well.
Mr. Conkle, can you please recount what this process looked like last year? Because I'm not recalling what that was like.
There was not a process. I think there was a discussion by the commission, and then I authorized the expenditure.
Okay. I appreciate that it's coming before us and having a more public process than the last time. But at the same time, I don't necessarily feel right about being put in a situation where we can then give other groups a reason to say, why can't I come before the city commission and ask for 10 grand for this project that will help not just tourism, but any sort of project that could come from the general fund. And so I just, for me, it's more of a process thing that I struggle with this on.
I think, isn't there a request that that they have to have a decision to the Rose Festival? I don't know what the timeline is for the Rose Festival and asking for things or whatever, but it's obviously, it's at the end of this month, and we were asked to put this on the agenda ASAP, so we're kind of down to the wire.
No, I know that. I'm just saying that I think regardless of what the timeline is, I don't necessarily like the position this puts us in the future for other groups to then, at a time when we're in the middle of a biennial budget, to come and advocate for this spending. That's what makes me uncomfortable.
What other types of programs, if you could maybe, Mr. Conkle, reiterate just for the public, because I don't have it off the top of my head. We have some applications that can be filled out for funding for tourism-related things and events.
Correct. Yeah, we funded, essentially community event grants. So that's going to be coming to you in April. Really focused on like First City Celebration, similar to that.
So I could call this an event, a community event of some sort. It's not in Oregon City community, but it's a big festival that they want to be participating in.
I don't think it meets.
So what would that fall under our?
I don't think this does fit
Doesn't
anywhere.
fall into any of those things that we have, those grant applications?
I don't believe so, no.
So this is outside the scope of any of that?
Correct.
Metro enhancement.
Well, that's where it's been before. I mean, so.
I'm asking the question mark. I'm not saying it is.
Has it succeeded there, right?
It's part of the dilemma that this group is in by coming to the commission and asking, because there has been either no venue in the past to apply, or the venue in the past to apply either, I can't say that there hasn't been Metro enhancement in the past for something like this. So this has been going on for years, and some years the organization funded it almost entirely themselves. Other years they've asked for help from the city. I know that at least in my memory, the city has either funded this or partly funded this more than a few times, more than two, more than three. But it's been inconsistent, and the process of how the organization has come to this decision has been different because of whatever reason. I think last time they went through staff, previous years, and so I think they're struggling in figuring out the best way to approach it, because it doesn't quite fit under the grants that we have that are more event focused. But yet we have, other than this, I mean, individual groups can come to this body all the time and ask for money, and we've had that happen, so I understand that position too. So I don't know what to say, but
I don't either.
They're struggling with the same question. Where is the appropriate, path to go? And they're trying to sustain essentially what has been created as a annual thing that our city has done for, I want to say, maybe a couple years we missed, but I want to say we've been doing this 10 years or so. Close to. Not that it was funded, by the city all that time, but.
Well, and I know that the float has been going on for quite a while, because I remember marching in the Grand Floral with the high school, and then always having the heritage floats being there and appreciating that. So I realize this has gone on for a while. I think for me, the other part about creating a precedent for groups that come and approach us for money is the fact that we're also going through a very big conversation and debate right now about how we're even going to be spending transient lodging tax in the form of what could be a DMO and looks likely to be a DMO. And given the very limited resources we have to get that started up in the first place, I would be extra hesitant to take away from that seed money that would be available for that to get started up. And in the end, what I want personally from the DMO conversation is for the spending of those dollars to be delegated to an independent board that is more in tune with this area. And so for me, it's not just the precedent, but also the fact that we're having a lot of tourism-related conversations right now that I think ought to be saved for when that independent board is up and running. I just don't feel it would be setting us up for success to expend resources ahead of that.
So the other issue with regard to the DMO is that, at least the way I see it in my head in the future, is that it's not going to be doling out grant money to things. It's going to be there. We have programs that we have that's where that money will be able to be given out. It's going to be using their money to bring people in here, advertising. It's not going to be like everybody's going to get a little piece of the pie. That's not
unless they were to count this DMO and this board, if they were to count something like this as an advertising expenditure, which it could very well, as Commissioner Mitchell has noted and Commissioner Smith, it could very well fall under that. If that's something that the DMO board, governing board wants to do, then I think that would be great. I just would want them to be the ones making the decision and not us.
And I would agree if we had that board. But just like we have to make the decision this year for event grants this summer because we don't have that structure. I don't want to see us fold up our tent and not do anything tourism related in the interim before we're able to get the DMO established.
I don't think
right, but the difference is that those event grants have already been allocated through our biennial budget process.
And those will be Oregon cities. We're not going to toss that off to the DMO. That's not what they're doing.
I don't know how granular our budget got, but the transient room tax is in our budget, and this would be an expense against that fund, and not the general fund, in my mind anyway.
Correct. Yeah, the revenues are estimated in the adopted budget. Certain funds were allocated for, let's say, special event grants. Right. So yes, there is a surplus, an ending fund balance there. But, you know, and I guess I don't want to get too great. It's not like we set aside a certain amount of money for other. Now, you can certainly do that, right? But there wasn't a line item for, you know, for example, a float, right? That wasn't discussed during the budget. I guess I think that's where Commissioner Marl's going. There are funds there, though.
Yes, and I recognize that. My point being that those were funds allocated through a public, robust budget process with our citizen members that then came to us. So I just think that's a little different.
I guess the question I have too, what is the timeline?
The
starting at the beginning, when I mean, because you know we know when the Rose Festival ends, and then they start planning for the next one.
Applications came out about 2 months ago, and our group only meets once a month, and so we put together the ideas, decided on the theme, and the application had to be in by Friday. I actually sent it in yesterday, just so we would reserve a spot. Contract for flow construction has to be done by the end of the month because they have to order flowers way in advance. And I apologize for the out of the ordinary process. Our committee's been, as you know, very sensitive to supporting the tourism initiative, and our whole goal was just trying to keep some tourism-related initiatives, some visibility before the DMO or however that works out.
Well, gentlemen, what is your pleasure? Or not?
Well, just to move things along, I make a motion that we approve the $10,750 amount to come from transient room tax funds.
Is there a second?
I'm going to second it, but
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. We have more discussion. I actually have a couple more questions for you, Mr. Conkle. So this money comes out of our transient room tax, and is it going to affect the bottom line for what we have available for the community events grant and the, sorry, I forget the name of the other one that we have.
No.
It's not going to affect it at all?
We would take it from the ending fund balance that was approved through the budget process.
Okay, but will we have less money to allocate to those other things if we take the money out of that?
No, we allocated $50,000 a year for the community events. We would continue to have $50,000 allocated for community events. The proposal here is that we have an ending fund balance. We're not taking it from any other programs.
Okay.
It'll come off of the ending fund balance in the TLT fund.
Okay.
I have a question. Or maybe I don't even need to ask the question, but I can't remember where the banners came from. The banners with this logo plastered all over the city.
Oh, you mean Oregon's Hometown?
Right.
That came out,
Was that out of economic development?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm guessing we paid for 200 of them?
We have a few extras in case somebody decides they want to take it home as a souvenir or they get ripped. We have
So
some.
let's say 200.
Yeah.
200 times, will be really fair, $60. There's, it'll just do the math of what you spend on banners to put in our town to advertise tourism. And we thought, well, I don't know if we thought that was a good investment or not, but
I think it was a great investment.
If we put it in comparison, I'm not so sure.
I'm about ready to put it on some tennis shoes, so you know that.
Well, I'd do that.
Yeah, we'll do that. I guess where I'm coming from is I'm reluctant to vote in support of this, and the only reason I would vote in support of it is that I don't want this to come back to us again. Unless there's some changes, and again, I'm making a suggestion at the last minute, but again, I can't support this design. I support generally the concept of having a float, but again, it doesn't and maybe I'm making this a little too personal, but when I think about Oregon City, this float does not reflect me, and it does not reflect what I consider to be where our community is coming from. So I would definitely like to see some suggestions for changing this. And I think we need to, I don't think I will be inclined to fund this again next year, unless we have some other process that we can deal with, or we can deal with this in an earlier basis. I feel really constrained by having the deadline be Friday and at the end of the month, and it makes everything sound rushed, and you know what happens when you make a decision in a rush situation. You don't always make the best decision. So are we ready for the vote? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
No.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
No.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Going to do a reluctant yes with that proviso. Yes.
Motion passes.
If I can say something.
Please.
The mayor touched on something that I obviously had tunnel vision. I didn't think about it. So if you're going to put this, obviously this float's going to go forward. Your observation is correct. It doesn't acknowledge the many people of color who share a history with this city. It doesn't acknowledge the black, the Chinese, the Native Americans. And I do think that sends the wrong message. So if it's obviously going to proceed, which I don't agree with, but that matter's settled. And I think that thing needs a major revision before it, and I don't know what all you can do because I don't know what you have for a footprint to make those changes and stage them. That's all I'll say. Thanks.
That's good, thank you. I think one of the floats that I have seen in the past that I find very compelling, and obviously they have lots of money, is the Spirit Mountain float. It reflects their culture and kind of what's going on. I know we have old wagons, but I'd have to say honestly, I don't want to try to redesign this float, and if there's anything we can talk about offline about we can make this more diverse, I would say first of all, probably get rid of the wagon. I know for some cultures that have come to this area, it sends the wrong message. So we need to talk about messaging, and I will do what I can to help you with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will reach out to you.
Good, we'll chat.
Welcome to any ideas.
Okay, I'll put my thinking cap on and I'll talk to some folks in the community that might be able to help me with that as well. All right, so items 9C was added to the agenda, so we need to look at, get to my notes here, back to the notes. So the request was to put on the April 3rd, 2024 agenda, decision about the RV park. Are you making that a motion?
Well,
or discussion, excuse me.
I just want to be clear what I'm suggesting. And that is that at our next available regular meeting, we have a discussion, we take another round of public comment, and I'm not saying that we're going to get to a decision. I hope we will. We may not. But what I don't want to do is wait another 2-3 months, whatever, and then decide we need to pick up this discussion again. Personally, we need to show some progress. I'm not hearing anything from the community on one side or the other, but I am hearing, pardon my French, make a damn decision and move on. So that's why I want to get it on the agenda. We may not be able to get to a decision, and that'll be up to this whole group. I just want to see us keep this thing on the front burner and get to a decision point, and that's all I'm asking for.
I agree. Is that a motion?
Pretty ugly motion.
I know. You were just going to put this on the next available agenda, which
We had a
hopefully is
motion
able to.
already to
But
put
we
it
had a motion to put it
Oh, put it
on
on this
the
agenda.
on this agenda.
Now we're going to see if we want to put it on another agenda.
We want to put it on another agenda.
Okay.
So if you make a motion.
My motion wasn't to put it on this agenda. It was to have this discussion so that we can get it on the next agenda, get it noticed to the public.
And I'm asking you to make a motion to do that very thing.
That's okay. I move that we put this on our April 3rd regular meeting, publicize it that way, and that will allow us to take public comment and discuss and perhaps get to a decision.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Let's have the roll call.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
You can abstain.
Sure, let's do it. Let's just recognize that there's some flawed information there, and we'll discuss it at that meeting.
We'll get some better, not flawed information.
And Mayor Denise McGrath.
Aye. So
Motion passes.
we'll make it so.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. So under item 10, we have communications. We have a meeting coming up on April Fool's Day, don't we?
Nice.
With the school board?
We do. Yes.
We'll just consider that it's April Fool's Day. So go ahead, Mr. Manager, City Manager.
It's just.
You had mentioned something, I guess I missed that.
Yes,
Something
it was
with
a question I had for Mr. Williams.
Okay.
It's easy. It's an easy answer.
I was talking to Patrick, you know how that guy can.
I know. Anyway, as you are very aware, Commissioner Merle and I are the liaisons to our Youth Advisory Commission.
Yes.
How can we facilitate a meeting between our teen groups?
That is a great question. Knowing that there is interest, I will bring that to our TAC staff liaison, Sabrina Tusing, our teen librarian. They just are
RTAC just had their meeting in April. I want to say it was on Sunday, but I will touch base with her, and I will touch base. Hannah's the staff liaison.
Yeah, and our next meeting, I believe, is it April the 11th? Is that correct? April the 8th.
Okay. I will touch base with our contacts. Are you envisioning kind of a full joint meeting or maybe a liaison from one group coming to present to the other?
Depending on when you guys meet and they meet.
Okay.
We'll try to find some date, but I think we also will have some vacancies coming up, and it would be really great if we could have somebody from the library group be on that group and do some cross-pollination.
Okay. That is certainly something that we can explore. That would be great.
I told you it was easy.
That's pretty easy. So,
Okay.
all right.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you, Tony.
Sure. Next, I'm going to ask Aquila to come on up and just provide an update on the Park Place Crossing application that was reviewed by the commission and then taken to the Land Use Board of Appeals and then remanded.
When we start dancing now.
It's, no.
Alex gave me that look like, what? What is happening?
Hi, good evening. So the update's really pretty quick, but the applicant, their attorney sent our Deputy City Attorney, Carrie Richter, a letter formally withdrawing their application. And there was really no other conversation around it. So at this point in time, the remand is withdrawn and it will not be coming forward.
So, the $64,000 question.
One word, why?
I don't think I care at this point, but I guess a question that I had from a community member last evening was whether or not the property is owned by the applicant in fee, or whether they are buying it on contract or whatever, and I said, I do not know because I don't believe the property has an address, so I couldn't go online and, look it up.
So I guess I don't know all the details. I was just looking through OC map, and so the property owner is listed. There's multiple parcels, and so there's a mix of a corporation called Hidden Falls LLC, and I think the other one was Redland Road LLC. And then there are a few, maybe about 3 to 4 that look like just individual people still own them. So I think those 2 LLCs are part of ICON, but I don't know that for sure.
Well, if it's not too much trouble, it would be helpful if you could just send us an email. The answer that I need to give the community member is either yes or no.
So the question that I'm researching is, does ICON, the developer, actually own the property? Is that what I'm researching?
The question revolved around whether the property was owned because are they just going to sit on it? I said, I don't think we can answer that question. Are they going to sit on it, hold on it, wait for some other state legislation to come out that does something else? I said, I do not know.
Okay.
But that's not part of the question. It's that the question answer for me will be yes, they do, or no, they don't. So, Mr. Mitchell.
I just want to make sure I understand. So legally, everything they submitted, all the planning commission record, all the city commission record on the appeal, the LUBA appeal, any conditions of approval, none of that exists any longer. It's a clean slate for whatever they may or may not bring forth. Am I understanding that right?
Right, that's how I'm understanding it. So I think if you break it down, the application that they submitted for a master plan ultimately was denied by the city commission. So their application was denied. They appealed it to LUBA. We appealed that to Court of Appeals. The whole thing was remanded. They sent in a letter saying, initiate the remand, which means take another look at it. And now they've given us a letter saying that they're withdrawing that application. They're withdrawing that request for the remand. So that original, and Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that original application is denied, right? And the remand, they don't want to proceed with. They've asked to withdraw that.
So essentially, it's as if they filed an application and they've withdrawn it. So that decision is dead and gone. That development will not move forward. Having said that, there are a number of interpretations and things that were made by LUBA and the Court of Appeals that should a similar application come in, we would probably, not necessarily bound by, but pretty close to bound by. It'd be hard to go opposite. So there are things that may live on depending on what comes in the door. And that's really, as the mayor said, the $64,000. We don't know what's coming in the door next.
My suggestion then is we know what we know, and I would say as soon as feasibly possible, we change, get some amendments to the Park Place concept plan to avoid future problems. We've talked about fixing that in the South End concept plan and Thimble Creek. I don't know if we have any options for Thimble Creek, but we have now another option. So I would say let's get that done and fixed, so we don't end up in this situation in the future if we can.
So that work is underway. We've started that. My plan is to start work sessions around what that code language looks like in the May, June timeframe, because we're working on that now.
It can't come fast enough for me.
Understood, yeah.
Thank you. So I'll do the dance later.
I guess I would, just realize, we have this is a legislative amendment to the municipal code, right? There's a state mandated process to go through.
Yes.
We can control, what we adopt for the most part, right? And we understand the urgency. The one portion of this that we don't control is when someone decides to apply.
That's right.
And the no changing the goalpost rule essentially is when you apply, that's the code.
Right.
The city reviews under. So
I wouldn't even dare suggest that we change the goalposts. I'm suggesting that we clean up and update what we have in our code, knowing what we know now. And we have some excellent information that we can use to, let's just say, make some corrections and amendments to make this better for our community and deal with the whole livability issue.
And I know that Hidden Falls is an operating division of the previous applicant. In fact, they did a development over in Happy Valley under that very name.
Which name?
Hidden Falls.
Hidden Falls, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so other communications.
you had mentioned
Thank you, Aquila.
an update about, I wasn't sure if it was around housing, if it was the state funding that did not come through, or the request that we put into Clackamas County.
The request we put into Clackamas County, and the comment that Chair Smith said, bring us your requests, we'll fund it.
For SHS? For SHS?
We had suggested that we wanted to look in a variety of options, including something that Mr. Edgar had suggested, making some provisions available to do. So we have on Divisions, Juneberry Court.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, the county offered to local jurisdictions supportive housing services, or SHS funding, for locally designed programs that could be put in place. We worked with the police department to turn in one grant request, which, as you're well aware, we've historically funded our homeless liaison officer. We've fully funded our case manager, as well as our behavioral health specialist. A lot of jurisdictions around have kind of used our model moving forward, but they were also getting some funding from the county to offset those costs. So in our proposal to the county, we've asked for a portion of that reimbursed, plus an additional staff member to work outreach with our homeless community. A second grant was working with PD as well as municipal court to create, I'm not sure what it's going to be called, but it'd be similar to like a community court, where we at the municipal local level would be able to handle, address some of the issues that we're seeing with some of our housed and unhoused community members, and essentially have the infrastructure in place through case managers to help get through that program, especially in instances similar to what was just passed out of the Oregon legislature, where it's more of a diversion is probably more appropriate than a criminal route, taking in multiple factors that the judge would then decide. But it is the opportunity at the local level to start having an impact on what's happening with our local population. So those are the two grants. There were 5-year grant requests for both of them. So we're just waiting to hear back from the county whether those portions or all or both or none are approved. Does that answer your question, Mayor?
Partially, it wasn't those funds. She said that, I guess it would be supportive housing funds, because if we were to create a project by which we engage with an organization that builds housing, even if it's attached housing that people can buy, that is affordable supportive housing. That's what she said. So when I told her about Proud Ground and Reach Community Development, she was just all over it. And I said, well, we would like some of that money to be able to do something in our community. So it sounds like I need to follow up with her, which I will. Have you heard anything from them about, I'm hearing rumblings from our community members in Park Place that the county is moving full speed ahead with their Park Place housing projects redevelopment, and I definitely think they need to chat with us about that, because that has fairly major implications.
Not that I'm aware of. Aquila, have you?
There were supposed to be some meetings. I suggested that they start with staff, because this conversation has been going on since I got on the commission. And, stop, starting, and now it's like,
Yeah, they have met with us. So the Housing Services Division, I'm sorry, I don't have the right name for them, but.
Authority.
Thank you. Yeah, the Clackamas County Housing Authority. Thank you, Commissioner Morrell. It's been a while. I don't know that we've met this year, like as in 2024, but we did have several meetings about just the layout of their site. And so they still have to go through kind of all of the formal processes of a pre-application meeting, neighborhood meeting. I can't really remember if what they're proposing would be within a type 2 or if it would go up to a type 3. But because it is housing, it's probably more likely on the type 2 scale of discretion. But we haven't, so like I said, we haven't met with them in a while. I did see that, I think they received some funding from Metro. So I kind of thought we would be hearing from them, but not yet.
so would it be appropriate to have somebody from that agency come in and brief us about what they're thinking about? I think it would be very helpful so that we will be informed about what direction they're going in. I've met with them in the past, and like you said, it's been a while. And then when I was at the Housing Coalition's, Homeless Solutions Coalition meeting, somebody came up to me and said, oh yeah, we'd really like to talk to you guys about that. And I said, well, bring it. We want to know what you're thinking. We don't need to see all your detailed plans because you probably don't have them done yet, but what is your plan and what are you thinking about how this would work?
So I'm not sure that it would be appropriate. I think we'd have to think about the right venue for that, because if it is a land use decision and there's any appeal, then it would come to this body. It wouldn't, even if it starts at Planning Commission and gets appealed, it's coming to the City Commission. So I'm not sure.
I'm not asking to make a decision. I just would like some information.
Right. And so it's still a quasi-judicial review. So I'm going to phone a friend and ask Mr. Kabizman if he's got any.
There are, I certainly understand the desire to know a little bit more what's going on. I think what Aquila is concerned about is, the information that you receive. Not a problem that can be put into the, into the record. It's more what you say, what sort of things could lead to problems should that appeal ever come to you. And so, could you ask for more information? Probably. It may be better to have a staff reach out and kind of give you a report, just to not have that interaction.
That's perfectly fine.
Problematic.
That's perfectly fine.
Right, yeah, we could coordinate something like that.
Yeah, we just make sure whatever is communicated at the meeting gets into the record for the quasi-judicial piece.
Sure, that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
So last, I provided you the goals update. I'm happy to go through each one if you'd like, or if you have a specific question, I can.
Goal number 1.
So we received, I believe it was 28 applications. Those are being reviewed. Those were narrowed down to 3 staff. A staff review committee reviewed 3 of them, and working towards a final selection for a potential consultant and a scope of work that would then come before the commission for the contract approval. So making good progress on that DEI contract work.
And how soon do we think that's going to happen?
Well, we think it's possible it could be April 3rd, but it might slide to the 17th. It just really depends on how quickly we can turn around the contract. But we have identified the consultant.
As you know, I'm anxious to get
back
on the horse.
We will do our best to get on the 3rd, but if it doesn't happen, like I said, we'll definitely make the 17th.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about our goals update? We have our beautiful chart with the very small print, but I can actually read it because I just went to the eye doctor and it's 2020. So I think we're more than 4% progress on that, so that's pretty good on number 1. Information technology, any questions about that particular one since it's got 38%? I understand we're working on a fix to the projects page on the website, which I was trying to access the other day, and it kept telling me it didn't exist. I didn't know I had to go to the old system to go to the new system, because I thought, well, it's all new. I'll just put in what I want, and it said, sorry. Let's see, anything else pop out to anybody? All right. Commissioners, you have anything else? Alex, do you have anything you want to add?
I do not.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I have some exciting news coming from DC, which is few and far between these days.
Did we get money?
But I'm really excited to announce something that I've been working on over the last year with Congresswoman Chavez-DeRemer and Senator Merkley's office, and have been lobbying them hard, taking staff and electeds on site tours, as well as meeting with staff here in Oregon, as well as senior level staff that's based in DC. And Oregon City has been allocated an earmark for $4 million to continue and hopefully finish up the engineering documents that are necessary for us to begin the phase 2 of the jug handle, which is the Redland up till 213. And so I'm really excited, and I want to thank Senator Merkley and Congresswoman Chavez de Remer for having worked with me over the last year to get us to this point where we are high up on their list, and we are moving forward to receive that $4 million allocation. So that is great news.
Yes, and we just have to get our friends at the county to chip in their part, and our friends at ODOT to chip in their part. So Coney's going to go with the handout. Put your money in the hat. Commissioner Mitchell.
And Mr. Edgar got me started talking about it, thinking about it when he mentioned the dreaded T word. C4 Metro meeting this morning, the JPAC, which Joint Policy Advisory Committee on Transportation, meets tomorrow morning, and they're getting a presentation from ODOT, and the title of their presentation, they're talking about ODOT's fiscal cliff. And when I heard that,
I thought they were already off of it.
I made a reflexive grab for my wallet when I heard them say fiscal cliff. Because obviously with the tolling revenue going away, they're going to be looking for, and it's necessary funding. I'm not saying it's not necessary funding, but I think we all know that we need to keep that on the top of our mind and try to keep the pressure on them. And I think the idea that was floated by one of our representatives of an audit of ODOT and their operations needs to be a part of it. But I don't think we can sit back and think that we're going to escape unscathed if we don't do something to keep that top of mind as far as ODOT collections and how they spend their money.
I think the audit is absolutely critical. It's going to confirm some of the things that some of you have already said, and I think there needs to be a great deal of accountability, because we don't know where it's going, where that money's going. Commissioner O'Donnell.
I guess a couple of things. I think the first thing is I want to compliment everybody who participated in that discussion on the floral parade float. And I want to do that because it was civil and it was respectful. And you can disagree, but we did it in those two ways, civilly and respectfully. So thanks for that to everyone. I appreciate the efforts that private citizen groups do in support of both the commission and the staff. I'm engaged in one with other members of the community. It's for the very thing that was spoken about earlier about the Johnston dock. I mean, we've got a coalition of tour boat owners, Locks Commission personnel, Westland people, OC Tourism, the Grand Ronde tribes, Clackamas commissioners, and we've got a plan. I mean, we have two things we've got to do: verify the structural component of the dock and examine any existing agreements, and we'll get that done. And the only disappointing people in this thing is the Oregon State Marine Board, because quite honestly, if they're involved in building it, they've got the engineering documents that tell me what that thing can do. I appreciate Kendall Reed's efforts in dealing with them. And I know they're not always rewarding efforts, but I mean, he's been our front man, and we'll keep doing that. So I honor those private citizen groups that are trying to get something done in both support of the commission and the staff. The only final thing is a report on the South Fork Water Board. We've been conducting tours, and I don't know who's made them and who hasn't. They've been numerous dates. And those tours were a review of the South Fork Water Board, South Fork Water situation, and that involves ensuring that we can continue to furnish quality water, that we meet state standards, and we looked at our infrastructure vulnerabilities, and we're looking at our finance. And water is an essential component of life, the most essential component. So we're going to be looking to keep that stable and continue to do what it's been doing. So I'll report further as that goes along. And that's it for me tonight. Thanks.
Mr. Smith. Forgot what your name was for a second.
Not to be confused with Chair Smith. Like,
No.
I
No.
always want you to be very specific when you say that.
Yes.
Only thing I want to say is we're very, very close to spring break, so be safe, kids will be out.
Yes, we will. We'll keep an lookout. I don't have anything other than we've got that meeting coming up on the 1st with the school board, and do we have a tentative agenda yet, or we'll find out as it gets closer?
We'll find out as it gets closer.
We're meeting at their facility. I think that is it. I'm sure I'll think of it after I join during the meeting, but it'll be to you. So, being no further business, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you staff for everything, and Michael, keep working on that website fix. And thank you for attending. Patrick, thank you for the DEI process. Thank you so much, and thank you, Greg and Aquila.